The first thing that I want to say as it pertains to the injury of Evan Stewart is your heart absolutely breaks for the guy. This season was poised to be the season for Evan Stewart to break out and break out in a big time way. Like ever since he stepped onto a college football field, he has putting out productive season after productive season after productive season. In 2022 at Texas A&M, 53 catches, 649 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In 2023 at Texas A&M, 38 catches, 514 yards, and 4 scores. Last year at Oregon, 48 catches, 613 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Like he has been, just taking an upward trajectory in his career. Of course, that regular season game against Ohio State was fantastic. He was an integral part to Oregon's victory over the Buckeyes on October 12th of 2024. So I'm very curious to see what Evan Stewart's future is going to be, because remember, he was out of the Rose Bowl. I believe that was with a back injury. There was an injury during the spring that held him out of the spring game, and then you've got this injury. So now all of a sudden for Stu, you're stacking injury upon injury upon injury upon injury. And now how does the NFL exactly view you? And he hasn't gotten over 650 yards in a single season right now. So that's something that Evan is going to have to evaluate. That's something that Evan is going to have to figure out. But I will say this, as we look forward to 2026, it's not just me that said it. There's certainly other people out there that have said it, that 2026 is maybe what Oregon is building to possibly be able to win a championship. We know that this team is extremely, extremely young this season, but you get Evan Stewart to kind of use his red shirt this year and then move, and he's back for 2026. Now you have an experienced receiver for that football team over there. So if you're looking for a positive, if you're looking for a silver lining, having Evan Stewart on the 2026 team might be the positive that you are certainly looking for right now. But now it's time to look forward. What does it mean for 2025? What does it mean for the Ducks team now? Where does Oregon go from here? One of the first things I thought of was 2 guys, Dicorian Moore and Kenyon Sadiq. Now, all of a sudden, with those guys already had high expectations this season. Now, all of a sudden, it goes from high expectations to high pressure. Let's kind of talk about the difference, because with Stewart in the lineup, and then Dicorian Moore, we'll kind of start with him. With Dicorian Moore on the outside, right, he was, with him on one side and Stewart on the other side, they were certainly a complement to each other. And there wasn't this pressure for Dicorian Moore to come in right away and be the guy. Now, without Evan Stewart balancing him and balancing this offense on the other side, Dicorian all of a sudden becomes a guy where this coaching staff is going to say, you got to be the guy. You are wide receiver 1 from day 1 here on campus in Eugene, Oregon. So, that's kind of a quick period for a true freshman to certainly get up to speed to be able to play in that role. But that's the role that is being expected right now, certainly out of one Dicorian Moore. And then Kenyon Sadiq. Okay? Even more throws and more opportunities are going to go in the way of 18. Like Kenyon coming into the season, one of the best tight ends in all of college football. Okay? But now, all of a sudden, you could very well see Sadiq lined up in the slot a lot more. You could see him lined up out wide a lot more, which means we could see more of Jamari Johnson. Like, you lose one guy, and it's kind of got this domino effect of what exactly could happen going on from there. So, but now all of a sudden, if you have Sadiq maybe out wide in the formation a little bit more with Dicorian Moore, maybe that, the effect, maybe it doesn't maybe hit as hard. But I think Sadiq going out wide into those situations, I think it's situational. Like, you want Sadiq. He's an underrated blocker, if I must say so myself. So you certainly want him into that situation. So I'm very curious. Will Stein is going to have, over the summer, and as we head towards late July and into early August in fall camp, there's going to be some thinking as to now how does Oregon approach their offensive plan as it pertains to this offense. Now, as it pertains to this passing game, I should say, without Evan Stewart in the lineup. Okay, so that's kind of the first thing I thought of for 2025. Now you got to take a look at the backside. Who's next? Is it finally Jurion Dickey's time? See, in spring and then going into fall, one of the big battles, one of the big storylines was who's going to be wide receiver 3? Right, going into spring, it's like, you got Evan Stewart out there, you've got Jurion Moore out there. Who's going to be that third guy? So that was a battle to watch. Now all of a sudden, it goes from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 2 and 3 right now. I was talking to somebody today who had been at practice throughout the spring, or segments, I should say, maybe throughout the spring. And he kind of cited, the past issues with Jurion Dickey, but also mentioned that this is like the best spring that we've seen out of Dickey. And like I talked about this months ago, specifically for a former 5-star talent like Jurion, that this could really be an opportunity for him and a reset in the room and a new voice in the room to also have a reset for him as well, and for him to really be able to be centered and focused, and for Ross Douglas, because, man, we're going to talk about the players, and a lot of people are going to talk about the players. Hey, who's going to replace Stu? How is this all going to work? And we talk about the pressure on Kenyon Sadiq. We talk about the pressure on Jurion Moore. There's a lot of pressure right now on Ross Douglas. Right, we saw what he was able to do with a lot of talent, or with a lot of numbers, I should say, in the wide receiver room. Catching footballs at Syracuse last year, the leading passing offense of college football. What's he going to be able to do? How is he going to be able to get these guys up to speed where maybe some of these guys weren't going to play quite as big of a role? Now maybe some of these guys, they could be wide receiver 2 in this offense. They could be wide receiver 3 possibly in this offense as well. But Jurion Dickey is the guy that I immediately thought of because he's got the potential. He's got the body. He's got the skill set to be a great wide receiver. Will Jurion step up to be an Evan Stewart? Like Evan Stewart was kind of slated to be like a 1,000-yard receiver. I do not anticipate Jurion Dickey stepping up to be a 1,000-yard receiver. But if you can get halfway there, if you can get 60% there, if you get 70% there of what the expectations were for one Evan Stewart, then maybe you're starting to get on the right track a little bit. Will one guy replace the production of what Evan Stewart was expected to do? No, I don't think so. I think it's going to take more than one guy. You're going to need to see the depth really be able to be flexed. Malik Benson is another guy that also came up, right? He's played at Alabama. He's played at Florida State. Former number 1 JUCO player. But I think coming out of spring, I feel better about Dickey than I do about Malik Benson right now. Last thing that I want to talk about as it pertains to this Evan Stewart situation. Championship teams showcase a next man up mentality. When a guy goes down, one guy does not dictate whether a championship team kind of falls by the wayside or whether they remain a championship team. One guy goes down, the next 5-star comes up. One guy goes down, the next 4-star certainly comes up into that room. The wide receiver room is extremely deep, okay, because I think the veterans are going to play a big part. Gary Bryant Jr. and Justice Lowe, especially with so much youth, because really that other veteran outside of Justice and outside of Gary, now with Stu gone, that's the other veteran in the room. So those veteran voices are going to be extremely crucial, I think, to the success of what Oregon can possibly have this year. But you go down the line, you go to the Kyler Caspers of the world. You go to the Jeremiah McClellans of the world. Like, now it's their time. I think if I'm one of those guys, I was already kind of excited to get into this wide receiver 3 battle. Now if I'm one of those guys that was like, maybe I'm not quite going to get into that wide receiver 3. Now my ears kind of perk up a little bit. Now I think I'm a little bit more excited personally, because now there's 2 opportunities. Now there's more opportunities for me to get involved. Now I'm maybe putting in that extra set in the weight room this summer. Now I'm maybe putting in an extra 30 minutes or an hour in some of these speed drills outside. Now maybe I'm putting in just that little bit more effort to be able to get better because I know that I have an opportunity to step up and be a major player on this team. One player will not dictate. Okay, Evan Stewart being out for the season, although it sucks, although it is deeply unfortunate, and although it sucks for Eastu, I do not believe, because you've got a really good defense on that side. Greg McElroy from ESPN, I believe, ranked them as a top 10 defense in all of college football. You've got a great run game with some great interior offensive linemen that they got in the transfer portal. Like, there are really good players that are going to make the run game succeed, that are going to make the defense succeed as well. There's depth in the wide receiver room. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom within Duck Nation right now, but trust me, this is an opportunity for the young guys to be able to step up and make a difference for this Duck team in 2025. Man, if you're looking for more intrigue on this Duck team, I think that this injury creates all that much more intrigue, especially on offense. You know, there are wide open opportunities to see who can be a playmaker for Oregon in this 2025 season.